right, we're good. We're good. All right, let's get started. It's let's call to order the meeting of the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District at 6:01 p.m. Wednesday, February 21st, here at the Giddings Council Chamber. Welcome to everyone. With that, we do have a quorum, so if we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. So welcome. We have public comments now. We're on agenda item number 2. Anyone that would like to speak, please fill out the public comment form. With that, I'll bring up Andy Weir. If anybody else would like to speak, please fill out a form. And I've got you, Andy, down for non-agenda and agenda items.
Okay, you want them all at once? Or?
Well, first let's start with the 2A non-agenda items.
Okay. Good evening, I'm Andy Weir. I'm a resident of Bastrop. I have a well in the Simsboro Formation, the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer, and I'm Executive Director for Simsboro Aquifer Water Defense Fund. We work with landowners, businesses, and governments in Milam, Burleson, Lee, and Bastrop counties to protect the Carrizo-Wilcox and individual groundwater rights. I'm speaking on 3 non-agenda items. First, in your board package, you have correspondence between environmental stewardship and the board and staff regarding the Colorado alluvial aquifer. And SAWDEF, group I represent, shares the concerns of environmental stewardship. And we want to thank Lost Pines for the work that you're doing, like the inclusion in the management plan and the science that you have LRE doing for the alluvial aquifer, monitoring that, because it's important. And the reason being, environmental stewardship just was granted status in a contested case of a wastewater permit that dumps into the Colorado. And it was for those very arguments, those same concerns that they've been expressing, the interaction between the aquifer and the Colorado River, which is important to our future. And so that argument moved TCEQ. They said it's a valid argument, and they gave them standing in a contested case. Similar to that, with SAWDEF, we asked for public hearings on 2 other wastewater permits that were also dumping into the Colorado. One of the developers of a subdivision that was putting in this permit called us and said, what's the issue? He was alarmed to find out that there was a possibility of contamination of the aquifer because of that relationship. And he worked with us to sign an agreement. They reduced their effluent output, the treated effluent, by 50%, and they're going to put in grassland or constructed wetlands to help integrate that effluent before it gets to the river. And so there's a way to do stuff. You know, the science that you're doing, the management that you're doing for the Colorado alluvial aquifer moves government and it moves businesses to action. So please keep it up. Last thing, what was that? Second thing is the Region K Water Planning Group. I went to that meeting last week, and what was interesting was when they finished their assessment of population and water needs, now they're moving to strategies to meet those needs. And when they did that, the representative from GMA 9 and from GMA 8, the groundwater management areas, they said, we've got something to say about that. When you do strategies, don't balance the water projects on the back of groundwater. And the guy said in the group, he says, our wells are running dry and our aquifers can't sustain it. And I think we can hear the same thing here in GMA 12. We'd have the same deals. The reason I say that is I'd like the board to start putting on their future agenda discussion of desired future conditions. Y'all need to get involved in the planning process for the DFCs. We're 2.5 years into this 5-year process. We really got to get involved. They're starting to run computer models. Post Oak has a committee meeting on this. Brazos Valley has the same thing. Lost Pines needs to get into action, or we're always gonna be on the receiving end of people sucking the water out from our counties. And third, I'm out of breath. Third thing, somewhere in here, last. March 6th to the 8th, at the Hyatt Lost Pines, right in your backyard, is the Texas Water Conservation Association Spring Conference. That's a great place to go. There's a lot of board members from groundwater districts from all over the state, but there's also the engineers, the lawyers, the regulators, the politicians, the state employees for everything on wastewater, groundwater, surface water, flood water, storm water, anything water is at that meeting. And you can sit there and have breakfast with other board members from other GCEs. You can have breakfast with municipalities that are water supply and understand their concerns. It's a great place to go, and I hope you all will take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Why don't you just stay there, and you're next. You've got now, well, let me first check. Anybody else has comments on non-agenda items? All right, then we're going to move on to item 2B, agenda items, and Mr. Weir, you're up again.
So that's on your audio visual. So you've got 3 bids in your thing. So what I did before I became this water wonk and started talking ad nauseum about water was I worked at the state of Texas doing audio-visual conference systems. And so I just want to say in there, 2 of those bids have you using a proprietary, looks like an iPad, a proprietary touchscreen device. There's a drawback to that. It's nice to have that kind of control, but this would be the scenario. You're going to schedule a board meeting. You're going to tell everyone it's available by Zoom. Then between the time that's posted and the board meeting actually takes place, someone's going to trip over a cord, knock that thing on the ground, and it's going to break. And you won't be able to Zoom your meeting. And so you're going to have to cancel that board meeting because you'll be in violation of the Open Meetings Act. Don't limit yourself to that proprietary touchpad. You have a bid in there that says you do a software connection. You can use any laptop or iPad or other tablet, connect to their proprietary software, which is portable, and run the system that way. So I would advise against the one that's dependent on a custom programmed touchpad, because speaking from experience, we've had to cancel conferences because equipment was broken in the hours before everything was to kick off. And we didn't have a replacement, and the replacements were in the thousands of dollars. And so that's just from experience, I want to say that.
So it's not like an Apple iPad? It is totally proprietary? Is that,
Correct.
wow, yeah, because it's a,
Do you know which proposal that is?
So,
2 and 3.
the proposals from Mood both rely on touchpads.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next item is 4G.
4G is future agenda items. And one is the DFCs, to emphasize that. I had it all clear in my mind, didn't get written down. So future agenda, I just want to emphasize the desired future conditions, to have that be a focus for the board. You need to start running computer, and this is my opinion, right? I'm not a scientist. Despite what ChatGPT says. I had ChatGPT, their artificial intelligence. I said, tell me who Andy Weir is. It says, Andy Weir is an advocate for groundwater. He's a hydrogeologist. No. So I wrote in and I said, you're wrong. And he has nothing to do with hydrogeology. So I said, write me another summary. And it said, Andy Weir may or may not be. So none of this comes from ChatGPT. This is all my original thought. But please get engaged in the DFC process. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thanks, yeah.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak public comments regarding agenda items? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 3 on the agenda. The consent agenda items are routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion or action on these items unless requested by a board member. Is there anyone that would like to pull anything out of the consent agenda?
I would like to pull out the financial report. I have some questions.
All right, we'll pull the financial report out. Anything else?
I have just a question, it's not necessarily to pull something out. Letter D, the water well monitoring update, I wasn't sure why that was in the consent agenda. I mean, has that just been there from the past, or what?
It's an artifact of old agendas, we can clean that
No,
up.
I was just thinking,
I'll say because I talked about in the GM report, but
right,
I think it's just kind of an artifact,
Yeah.
so we can clean that.
that's what I thought too, I
Yeah.
just wanted, so that's my suggestion, so yeah, please pull that permanently.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on the other items.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, last letter B, the financial report.
Okay.
Second.
All right, so hearing a motion and a second, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. So let us go. Director Burgess, why don't you ask?
Ooh, Director Burgess, I like that.
Okay. I got the name right. I practiced. The floor is yours.
Well, I spoke to Peggy earlier, and she answered some of my questions, but going over these as the new guy and looking back to what I had from the last statement in December.
Can you hear? I
No.
can't
Can you hear
hear.
me?
Is the mic on?
Yes,
I
they're
think
just
so.
very low in this room.
Yeah.
Oh,
You have to get,
well,
like, right-
I don't talk real loud, so that's probably a good thing. But anyway, I had some questions that I would like to bring up and understand because of my training and the things that I'm used to seeing. I understand that not completely a financial report, this would be called. This is more akin to a budgeted income statement, where you're taking a set amount, a budgeted amount, monitoring it throughout the year. You come up with how much you still have left to spend, that
Mhm.
type of thing. So, and that's all well and good, except that it doesn't give you a really clear picture of all of your assets, of everything that you need to take into account, especially when you're making decisions with basically other people's money. I also question why there is not a balance sheet, at least annually or quarterly, because that gives you a concise picture of everything you own, everything that's of value, and every liability that you have. It's laid out where nearly any manager, or, person on the street can understand it. It's a much clearer picture of where you are and where you're going and where you might have excesses and money that you could take and put to other uses. I don't know if everyone is, I have information that I can share on what all of these different kind of reports are that you can use to make there are a whole bunch of different things but the balance sheet and your income statement are the primary articles that you need to make decisions, to be able to look at what's happened and what has not happened and where you might move money around. Another way of looking at it is, I don't wanna keep talking about all of this stuff. I just think that I would like to see that done. A balance sheet is normally at the end of the year, maybe after, I understand you have a full audit every year.
Mm-hmm.
I think the audit may have a balance sheet, don't you, isn't it, Jim? I think the audit includes it.
It comes with that, where you
I believe
can.
so. I'd have to-
Yeah,
Annually?
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure it
annually.
does.
Yeah,
No.
Are we due for a new RFQ?
yes, that's the first, one of the top priorities. We're getting off track, but this would be a great topic to
Yes.
put towards the financial committee
Yes.
to
I
review
think
these
so.
documents and see how we can improve.
I think so. And I have a couple of other things about here. You have an item on here called, government relations, that has an excess of quite a bit of money. What is that?
That is our lobbyist.
Greg Ellis, our lobby lawyer, Mr.
That's
Greg Ellis.
Greg Ellis for his lobbying work.
Legislature, he lobbies the legislature on
Okay.
our behalf.
So the amounts that are on here, is he a paid employee? He's a consultant, I take it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Similar contract to Natasha's.
To Natasha's, okay. That answers some of those questions. I also have some questions about things that are charged to the legal area that it seems to me that they're not necessarily something that should be charged to a legal bill, things that we could do ourselves in-house.
Yeah.
Making agendas doesn't require an attorney. That comes from your governance committee.
The president sets the agenda, and I do rely on legal to help. So it is necessary, it's to have that. It's
Can you
not a
give
lot,
me an
it's not a lot of
example?
time, it's not a lot of time they spend on it, believe
Can you
me.
give me an example?
Just reviewing the items, the executive sessions, there's several legal things here that I'd be uncomfortable with without legal helping to make sure where everything's,
And a lot of those legal services fall under our monthly retainer, not the actual
Right.
billable hour.
Well, I did see that as well, but you seem to also have quite a sizable sum left over. It's somewhere in the $75,000 range from last year in your budget item, and I noticed that you've upped it another $100,000 for this year. Are we fixing to get sued?
we just got sued.
I'm curious why there's a whole nother $100,000 in there.
We were just recently sued, and their contract was recently increased by about 10%. So the financial committee would be the best place to ask these questions. They went through the budget and budgeted and came up with the 2024
Okay.
budget.
And I'm assuming that this was presented to the board and.
Correct, and voted on
There
last
again, I'm a kid on the
December.
block. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. These are just things that I see I wanted to bring up that
Mhm.
I think everyone should be thinking about, is how ways to save money. My understanding is we are here to help the folks in these districts, and the more money that we don't spend, the more money you have to help someone.
That initial statement about we're here to, I think the lawyer would take some issue with your statement of our purpose, but, we'll bring it up at as soon as we assign a financial committee, we'll bring that up and start having those discussions.
Yep.
Okay.
Is it November they do the budget, or October?
Yeah, I think they started in October
Yeah.
in order to have a month leeway or so.
Okay, then, understanding that it's gonna be looked at, and there are reasons to say that it's okay. That's really all I wanted to say.
Understood,
was
okay.
There are a number of things here I think should be addressed.
Sure. All right, so we'll put that on the plate for the financial committee. All right, with that, a motion to accept the financial report? I'll entertain any motion.
I will move that we accept it with the condition that it gets brought up and addressed at a later point.
Sure, fair enough.
Second.
Second? All right, second from Director Smith, I saw first. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right, moving on to the regular agenda. Anyone has any announcements? I have 3. Does anybody else have any announcements? All right, the first announcement I have is regarding the sale of the district property in Page. as folks may know, about close to 2 years ago, we put the district owns 2 acres of land on the corner of 290 and 21, across from that new Whataburger. About 2 years ago, roughly, the district decided to sell that land. And in that interim, in that time, the district has purchased the property in Giddings. And the sale was finalized about 2 weeks ago. Those 2 acres were sold for $170,000. And the net proceeds after the realtor fees and title company, the net was about $158,000 and change with the net proceeds. So that sale did come through and was finalized.
Help pay for the new office.
Yeah, it helps partially pay for the new offices, which the building itself was $235, so it went towards that. All right, that's the first announcement. The second announcement I have is the 2024 district committee assignments. Folks have been on certain assignments now for 2 years, so I'm trying to change it up and give folks equal opportunity to participate in different committees. So financial committee will be directors Semang, Burgess, Phillips, and Cole, with the treasurer being the chair. That's by rule. That's Mr. Director Semang will be the chair. Governance committee will be directors Hernandez, Rogers, and Semang, with the president, myself, being the chair. Infrastructure committee will be directors Cole, Arsufi, Cook, and Textor, with Director Cole being the chair of the infrastructure. Management committee will be directors Rogers, Cook, Smith, and myself, with Director Rogers being the chair. And the education outreach will be directors Smith, Arsufi, and Textor, and a new hire with Director Smith being the chair of the education outreach. So those are the assignments.
Can we get a copy of?
Yeah, I'll make sure this will.
Damn.
Yeah, we'll make sure we'll get this out to everybody and probably put in a packet for next month, and we'll email it out to everybody.
Could you repeat the infrastructure? I couldn't get that.
Sure. Infrastructure was directors Cole, Arsufi, Cook, and Textor, with Director Cole being the chair of the infrastructure.
Strong leadership.
Okay. Next, regular agenda item 4A3, the district rulemaking stakeholder group. In 2023, the district engaged in a 5-month rulemaking stakeholder advisory process. The goal of the stakeholder group was to evaluate and make recommendations on the district's recently adopted production limits to be applied across the district. Last year, during the stakeholder process, LCRA filed a lawsuit against the district challenging the validity of the district rules, including the production limits. LCRA was a participating member of the stakeholder group. After consultation with the district's legal counsel, the district is putting the stakeholder process on hold while the litigation is pending. As a result, the rules stakeholder group is on hold, and we hope that the pause would be temporary and short-lived. That is my announcement on the stakeholder group. So with that, we'll move on to regular agenda item 4B, the discussion, consideration, and possible action on proposals for audio-video services. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of your board. There were 2 sets of quotes that were included in your board packet. One was from a company in Austin called Mood, who I originally reached out to last year. One is from Phillips, who handles our current copier and district printers. And then the third copy is on your table now, is a copy from the company Stratmont, who, as you may remember, we contracted with for our IT services. I wasn't able to get hold of the original company, one of the other companies I'd spoken with, so I asked Stratmont to fill in and provide us with a set of quotes. As Andy brought up, the quotes from Mood do rely on a proprietary system, which could be problematic, but they're also, the 2 quotes they provided us were for $60,000 and $30,000. So setting aside the proprietary nature of their tablet, I'm not sure those were ever going to be a starter for us. The proposal that we have from Phillips is the same one that we had, I'm sorry, from Sharp, same one we had last year. It's about $18,000 for three new displays, video cameras, microphones, and speaker systems to get us up and running and conducting virtual meetings in our new office. The proposals you have from Stratmont, they brought two different proposals. Their lower end proposal is for no displays, simply microphones and cameras to get us going virtually. If we took that and paired it with the Sharp proposal for displays, it'd be about the same price. But we'd be mixing two different vendors, two different suppliers, and two different systems that aren't known to play well, that aren't known to interoperate. Given all of that, based on the three quotes that we have here in front of us for multiple different proposals, from each company, I believe that the proposal from Sharp is our best choice. It's $18,000 for the entire setup. That gives us all the displays, our audio video system, with installation and everything. It's from a company where they've installed this exact package in other council chambers before, so it's a known quantity to me. And that would be my recommendation, is if we want to go ahead with any of the three that we have quotes from, I think Sharp would be my recommendation.
You said Phillips, was that?
I'm sorry, I said Phillips, I meant Sharp. Yes,
But it
ma'am.
is the same thing?
Yes,
That's- Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, just checking.
And the Sharp currently has an established relationship with the district,
That is correct.
and that's regarding the copier.
Yes, sir.
So and is there anything else that they provide currently to us?
Right now, it's just a copier.
So they currently have a contract with us with respect to the copier, so.
They're an established vendor. We know
Sure.
the conflict of interest forms,
Yeah, and it's a national name. Sharp is the Sharp TV maker, right? So.
correct.
And how much of this is installation versus maintenance contract, like the copier?
The, let me
I
find
was
this.
trying to figure it out, and I got more confused, so I quit. They gave us almost too much
I
information.
know, I got confused,
Yeah.
lost some of it.
I mean, I agree with your thing, I was just curious.
Yes, ma'am, I was trying to find the spreadsheet. There's actually very little with Sharp. It is, really, we've got about $1,500 on a 5-year contract for the system that blends the audio and the video. That's the only real, everything else is more or less one-off purchases. And it's,
So it's not really a maintenance contract?
yes,
then?
yeah,
Okay.
there's, that's the other advantage of this one, as opposed to the proposals from Mood or from Stratmont. This one has very little residual cost, whereas the rest of them have ongoing associated maintenance costs or other fees that are tucked in. So again, that kind of goes back to my original recommendation, that this is probably our best approach.
They have warranty on the equipment
Yes,
too?
ma'am.
Okay.
Now, I have raised, as you pointed out earlier, that we do have some soft speakers on the board, and we need to make sure that we have a microphone system that can handle that. But I think that's something we can compensate for. It's gonna be a challenge regardless, but we're trying to work around that. I made every vendor that I spoke with aware that there is a high dynamic range in vocals between board members and the public and everyone else, and also how we control that, those microphonic pickups, especially if you're looking at the ceiling systems, so that we don't hear every buzz of every cell phone, every cough, every whisper in the back of the room. So, like I say, we can either go, if you're not comfortable with these proposals, we can come back and try and get 3 more. But if you're comfortable, right now, I think Sharp is our best bet.
Does Sharp have the proprietary touch
No.
pads?
Is there background information on the reliability of the equipment itself? Because Sharp has never really been known as a top-line product.
I could ask them to supply some more information on reliability. But what's in the packet right now is what came in with their request for quotes.
And
You've
this
been
is being
using their
bought as
computer?
opposed to rented?
Yes, sir.
But the printer, you've just been using them for how long?
We've been using Sharp as long as I've been with the district.
Okay, they've been responsive?
Very responsive, yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions of,
Well, do you think we need more information from Sharp, or do you feel comfortable going forward, or what do you recommend?
Given my experience with them in the past on the copier side, and we're dealing with the same sales team, we're dealing with the same, even though we moved from Smithville Giddings, we're still dealing with the same people. I'm confident that they'll take care of us. Like I said, I just wanted to put that option out there if y'all wanted to come back with some more options, but it'd be nice to move forward on this and get into our own, home court advantage, so to speak.
If we wish to move forward, do we need a motion?
yes, we do.
Yes.
I would move that we go forward with Sharp as recommended by the general manager.
Okay, hear a motion. Do I have
I'll
do I
second
have a
that.
second? It's okay, seconded by Director Call. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. All right. Regular agenda item 4C, discussion, consideration, and possible action on LRE Water's 2024 deliverables and timeline. Mr. Claus, please.
Good evening, Vince Claus with Ellery Water. Last board meeting, we were asked to provide an updated timeline, and in front of you, you should have that updated timeline now. What this includes is both a look in the rear view mirror in terms of those proposed tasks that we've already started and were approved for last year, and it's also looking down the road here in terms of some of these things that we have on the docket right now, such as the monitoring, the water level monitoring, and then also the development of the district's groundwater model. There is a different timeline in the packet versus what was printed. One's a 6-month versus the 18-month. The 18-month one there is the more informative one. I believe you have the 6-month one in your hand, Director Smith. Be happy to answer any questions. I think the one big change on this is the, I have it right here in front of me, my apologies. Is the draft delivery date for the Colorado River Alluvium Groundwater Surface Water Interaction Study and Alluvial Monitoring Plan. And the main reason for that is we're just being very methodical, diligent in terms of how we're approaching this, being very thoughtful of the board, and then also things that have been addressed and raised by the local community as well here. We're confident in what we are going to deliver. Just need a little bit more time to make sure we're able to do everything as we think it is best fit there in terms of other things we have on our plate currently, such as the development of the hydrogeologic model. Colorado River Alluvium is part of that model. Having that model now allows us to better understand saturated thicknesses within the alluvial system. So we're trying to build upon one task to the next as we get to that final report there.
I have a question.
Yes.
On your original plan, phase 3, is some of that going to be included in the 3D model of hydrogeologic? But I mean, it's like where we had, our management plan includes most of those things in phase 3. And particularly, let's see, goal 5, which address natural resource issues that impact use and availability of groundwater. We're talking about contamination.
Correct.
We've got old oil wells, strip mine, and of course now we have a new one. I just got an article about, what is it? I think it was Houston, where they were using like the billow dirt, and they have severe groundwater pollution from some kind of a, growing operation that, their groundwater, and there's lawsuits is in court. So immediately I'm thinking, oh, well, we have Thomas Turfgrass doing that. Do we have monitoring wells? I don't recall. Do we have monitoring wells in Thomas Turfgrass? And it's not just them. I don't mean to focus on them, but it's just the contamination, the water quality, to me, is still a big piece. Quantity is very important, but quality is just as important. And originally, our plan was that we were just going to have maybe one monitoring well if we thought there was a hazard. And I didn't know if that was part of the 3D model, if it's part of the monitoring system. I don't know. We haven't talked about it,
Right.
For a year, I guess. So I just wanted feedback on that, if that's still included.
So the phase 3 tests that were part of the original timeline were never approved.
Phase 3?
Phase 3, there was a sweeping motion to approve phase 1 and phase 2, but the items in phase 3 were never approved
I
throughout that
see,
motion.
that's right, I
Yep.
remember that now.
And so we haven't focused on those, but in regards to your comment on water quality, Alan Standen, he just delivered the draft report to Jim just this past week related to monitoring. And then
Okay.
as part of that monitoring strategy, there are recommendations to also consider a water quality monitoring
That's what I
strategy.
thought might be the case, and that's just what I was wanting to know, exactly. There may be other things as well, and plus it is in our management plan.
Mhm.
And some of the things we said we would do by 2024, and we may have to move those back, and that's fine, you know.
And depending on what we're specifically looking for, that changes the monitoring strategy or
Right.
the chemistry suite that we're sampling for.
Mhm.
If we're worried about contaminants from the oil and gas industry, we'll be sampling a different suite than, say, contaminants from Dillinger. So we have to be very thoughtful and methodical about how we go about developing
Absolutely.
a strategy like that as well, and we'd be more than happy to assist with that. But I believe it's slightly more complex and complicated depending on what we're specifically looking at. It's almost one of those things that you need to do on a case-by-case basis as well.
Right.
If the issue is dillo dirt or if it's potential oil and gas contamination, those are completely different sampling parameters.
Because we know the strip mines, you know, particularly, you know, the Alcoa strip mines, they did bury the coal ash
Mhm.
that has lots of toxic metals in it.
Right.
And there has always been concern about contamination, but we don't know it. It may be that we sample one time and it's not a problem, and you might check again maybe in 10 years. I don't know, I just thought we would continue the conversation. I'm not suggesting that we change what we have here, you know, but I think when we get the 3D model and we talk about the monitoring program and where this might fit in, and it is because it's part of our management plan as well, but we may have to change the
Understandable.
management plan.
In the 3D model, we are planning on delivering that here at the end of March, and then
Okay.
I'm looking forward to presenting those results at the April board meeting.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
No? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move on to regular agenda item 4D. Discussion, consideration, and possible action on scheduling and start times for the regular board meetings. So this was brought up by Director Cole. I'll have, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, I
We've all
just
been-
trying to get it
I
started.
want to meet earlier.
We do too.
Yeah.
I just sometimes, you know, it's very late when we get back and, you know,
Sure.
just staying on top of everything.
And
Do better in daylight.
other groundwater districts hold their meetings during the day, some in the morning, I believe. And so there is precedent, and other groundwater districts.
As long as everybody can make it.
Yeah, exactly. So Director Phillips, having these meetings earlier, would that be okay?
I would have to take off if we have it during the day. I would have to ask off work if we have it during the day.
What, I know I think you indicated in the past that your work schedule, that you're kind of on call all the time anyway.
Yes.
That you're
Yes.
busy, but would like 5 or 5:30 be helpful?
5:30 would be just fine. I mean, I could make that
Yeah.
work anytime. But, you know, between 8 and 5, I'm
I understand.
supposed to be right on it.
Well, we had a prior board member before you that, you know, couldn't
It's-
always be here in the day either,
Mhm.
so we didn't change it, but
Okay, so making it during the day would kind of would put a burden on you to have to,
Just make it a little bit difficult.
and you would have to take a day
schedule
off
it
from
out.
work, which is not quite fair as probably as well, so. So I think that's probably the main,
Sure, well, I mean,
Reason.
yeah, I
But-
want everybody to be able to do
But
what they
with
can
that-
do. I just was hoping, you know, 7 was really
yeah.
Yeah.
not out of control.
Would that 30 minutes help you? I mean, 30 minutes could make a lot of
Anything
Sure.
will help,
okay,
you know, anything
All
will
right,
help,
so maybe
especially
we-
in the middle of the winter when it's, you know.
okay.
And if we're gonna have all of our meetings in Giddings
That's true.
from now on, then, you know, some of us are gonna be making that long drive
Mhm.
every month and not just periodically.
Yeah, at least 6 of us will have to be there. hopefully we'll have the audio video and we'll have Zoom, so something, there will be remote options once we go into our new offices.
As long as the majority is physically
Right.
present. We have to have 6 people
Yep.
present. The other 4 can be
Remote.
remote and participate. Of course, she's still gonna be at work, but you could.
Mhm.
From home. You wouldn't
Yeah, as
to
long as we
come.
have 6 physically in that building, we'll be okay. So that, hopefully that might,
Will the remote people be able to participate in executive sessions?
yes,
We've done it in the past.
Yeah,
It's-
we-
Right,
Yeah.
I knew we had,
You should be able to do that.
yes, we've done it once in the
Okay.
past, and that would be the process, yes. Executive session would be a separate breakout meeting.
I mean, I think it's better if everyone can be
Oh, of
present.
course.
Yeah,
But that being said, it can be difficult sometimes.
understand. Okay, so we'll just table this for now, then? No action?
Well, we could make a motion to try 5:30 and at a later date change it. Just-
Sure.
That helps. right?
If I would make, I'd make a suggestion, as long as we're in other people's houses, starting at 6 is probably about as early as we
No,
want
I
to start,
agree.
to give
You're right.
people and staff
Sure,
time to
sure.
get in and out. But when we move to our own office, 5:30 sounds wonderful to, I think, all of us. So that would be my only suggestion, is if we want to make a motion on something like that, that we tie it to moving into the new office, rather than just say we're gonna start at 5:30 and showing up in Elgin at 5:30 and going, surprise.
Yeah, you're
Right,
I-
right. This would be tied to the new offices,
Sure.
these
And
times.
we were doing 7 all the time, and all of a sudden at 6, we didn't really vote on it. You just did it.
Right.
Which is fine with me.
Yeah, it may
Right.
not need it.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion just to change it half an hour.
Yeah. All right.
Is that gonna be, we have folks missing though, is there any possibility one of those would have an issue?
My
No,
understanding
I
is
know
no.
Kay doesn't, and
No,
I don't
Kay
think Mike does.
wants it
Yeah,
early.
Mike's
They
right here in
want
town.
early.
Mike, I don't
Yeah.
know about.
Yeah, we're good.
Just Mike?
We're good.
Mike's okay?
Yeah.
And Nick also?
Mm-hmm,
Nick?
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I just made sure that there was no, real
Right.
big conflict, and it
Sure.
wasn't.
So,
All right, so we'll keep it flexible. We'll try to make it as early as possible. We'll tie it to the new offices when we get there, and when we do move to the new offices, we'll have the Zoom audio-video capabilities as well. All right, then, moving on, we'll have the agenda item 4E. Let me just make sure, no further, everyone okay, and there's no other questions on that item? I can move on? Okay, so 4E, committee reports with possible board discussion, no action will be taken. The Financial Services Committee, I do have a report in my packet here. So the Governance Committee met on via Zoom, 9 a.m. on February 7th. In attendance were myself, Director Rogers and Samang, Natasha Martin, Bobby Salehi, and James Totten. We discussed today's agenda, the updated LRE water timeline, the audio-video bids. We reviewed the agenda for the district orientation that was held 2 Saturdays ago. We discussed the process of contacting new well owners, given the report by LRE Water with the new monitoring wells that we need to go after. So wanted to get that kicked off to begin the process of getting those new monitoring wells, or at least contacting the owners of those potential new monitoring wells. The quarterly review of the mitigation program. So our mitigation program has a quarterly review, and that will be planned for March. We discussed the need for an electronic document retention policy so that we can start scanning our documents and not having to have all our documents in hard copies and in files.
is that gonna be dependent on the new equipment that you have coming to the office?
No, that is not. That's independent.
That's not in the program?
This would be something, a new policy. So we need a policy first to allow us to not
To initiate.
to put everything in electronic format. Right now, everything has to be in hard copies. So we need a policy. So I've asked Natasha to help. And there's policies out there that we can reuse.
I just have a quick question. The mitigation program is that, is it the Financial Services Committee that's meeting with the advisory group? Is that what's?
This would be the general manager.
Oh, that's right, it's the general manager.
It's the general manager. He, at least he met last time. It was the general manager that met with the
Okay,
advisory group.
that's what I remember now. So it's not a committee,
Right. It's not. It's just a general manager.
GM and then advisory committee.
And then I'll bring, if it needs to go to a committee, if it's financial, questions about cost, it'll go to, the financial committee. If it's a question about rules, it'll go to governance and
Sure.
management. So we'll direct the output of that meeting to the appropriate committees and get it to the board for consideration.
Thank you.
We also discussed the need to update the procurement policy. The $5,000 purchase limit has been difficult for quick actions to purchase. We may need to bump that up. So we'll be putting that and the employment guide. So there's some policies that documents that need to be updated. We also bought some pens and pads with the Lost Pines logo on it for giveaways. We've got some pens I've seen already, and some memo pads are in the works. And then we started discussing the remaining items for the new office, like a dais and potentially outdoor signs. The current sign is a little bit old and weathered. A mailbox and a public announcement board have been installed outside the offices on East Hempstead Street. And that's it for the governance committee. The other committees did not meet. They weren't established yet at this past month. I expect the committees will be meeting within the next week or two and getting that moving forward. So there are no other committees unless someone, any updates anybody have? Okay, so with that, we'll move on to,
That is one thing that I wanted to ask about, is a set of bylaws, in preparation for, after being appointed, went out to several of the districts and started reading through the information that they have, what they've done with them. I've seen some really nice sets of bylaws that further help you, govern, if you will,
Yep.
those type of things.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some work on it to create a set of bylaws.
Sometimes you can take a lot of the policies. and
our policies that are on the web.
presentations
We have,
that you
Crunch them
we
down.
have a lot of policies on our website
Yeah,
currently,
make it
several.
better organized.
All right, with that item, regular agenda item, then we'll move on to 4F, the general manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. The general manager's report for February 21st, 2024. During the reporting period of January 1st through January 31st, we had 12 new wells that were drilled within the district. The list of those wells is attached to the back of the general manager report. They were all domestic wells in Lee and Bastrop County. During the reporting period, 18 water wells were gauged within the district. As far as drought, both Lee and Bastrop County experienced either the 4th or 5th wettest January in the 130 years on record. And based on that, we are now drought-free in Lee and Bastrop County. So that is reflected in the table included in this report. GMA 12 has not met since the October meeting of last year. I am getting very antsy because there's a lot of work to be done, and I need to push Gary about where we're at. I know they have some legal woes that may be taking his attention, but we need to get it back on track with GMA 12. So I'm hoping, in the next month, 4 to 6 weeks, we'll be able to get that scheduled and have the next GMA meeting. Director Smith, you brought up mitigation. We've currently processed 8 mitigation applications for a total of $73,150. That includes 1 full replacement well. The well that had the pump had overheated, melted onto the casing and destroyed the entire well. So the only real replacement there was to replace that well. On average, not counting that replacement well, we're looking at about $5,900 per well currently per mitigation for well lowering. Factoring in the replacement well as well, that brings the average up to about $9,000 per mitigation. We've got a handful that are still pending, that'll be processed this week, and with payments going out probably next week. Looking to do it basically on a bi-weekly process. So collect them all, collect mitigations over a 2-week period, run them through the system, and then start over again the following week. But right now, like I said, we've been running about 5,900 for well lowering, and the one well that we replaced was about 30,000. Now, these are all wells that were either repaired or replaced during the time that the mitigation program was suspended. Prices have gone up since then, obviously, so I would expect that we're gonna see that number start drifting north as we start going from wells that were mitigated during the suspension to wells that are being mitigated in 2024. I don't know what those numbers will be exactly, but I would expect they're gonna start drifting north as we move through this process. But that is where we're at with that.
Well, to go from the 5,900 per well for mitigation going up to 9,000, that's taking into account that one.
That's adding in that one $30,000
Okay,
replacement
alright.
well, yes, ma'am.
Alright.
So, I mean, it makes up
Yeah,
almost half
alright,
of the
yeah.
checks, or half of the cost so far.
Still a good average.
As far as pending permits go for the district, we are still working with Rambo Materials, which is a sand and gravel operation near Wilbarger Bend. They are in the process of reworking their application. They drilled for whatever reason, Hooper well, and applied for 250 acre-feet on a Hooper well, which is outside of what's permissible with the district production limits. So they're reworking their application to come back in and match those production limits, so that they're in line with the size of the operation that they currently have, with the land area that they currently control. In addition, we're also working with Aqua WSC on a modification to their S field in Bastrop County. That's their Simsboro well field on Highway 304, kind of out near Shiloh Road, heading towards Watterson. So we'll probably have that ready for next month for y'all to consider. It's a no increase modification to that permit. Additionally, I know that this was published. I said there were no upcoming meetings, but the day after we published, I received an email that Region G will be meeting in Waco at the Brazos River Authority offices on March 27th at 10 a.m. So I added that to the list of upcoming meetings. If anybody's interested in attending that, like I say, that will be at the Brazos River Authority offices in Waco. And with that,
Who goes to those now?
I'm sorry?
Anybody? Is anybody going to Region G?
I make 2 to 3 a year.
Oh,
But it's one of those things that it's on my calendar, and then if a committee meeting comes in, someone's gonna get bumped, and it's gonna be Region G.
yeah,
I don't have a seat on Region G, so it's a little bit harder for me to
sure.
make those.
Any other questions of the general manager? All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move to agenda item 4G, consideration of future agenda items. Anyone?
Well, again, somebody already mentioned, get started with the DFCs. I know that needs to go to the management committee, but I assume when we get the report from LRE, that's gonna be on the agenda anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that, I wanted to include the management plan goal 5 to see how that gets worked back in. Doesn't have to be immediate. And finally, the Lee County Carrizo, groundwater management zone. We have the report from Vincent, and I believe you said you were already planning to have it on the agenda next month if the.
Some sort of discussion on our
Okay.
presentation of it, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I didn't know if that was gonna go out to the public with our next packet or not. you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. Yeah, I don't expect a rules hearing
No.
yet, but a public presentation of it, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Been working
Correct.
on it for over 2 years, don't wanna keep it moving.
Absolutely.
That's it for me.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, then item 4H on the regular agenda, discussion, consideration, and possible action on the district board meeting calendar. Does anyone have any item there? I do not. Okay, and then 4I, setting the date and location of the next meeting. It'll be on March 20th in Elgin. So hopefully by April, we'll have the audio video and we can start making, having meetings in our own offices, hopefully starting April.
When I made arrangements with Elgin at the start of the year, I had them book out through March. So we have the space in Elgin through March. We may be able to extend that, but yeah, April is kind of a,
That's what we're shooting for. That's our goal. Our goal is to have our first meeting in the new offices in April. But for now, right now, the next meeting is March 20th, and it'll be in Elgin at the Public Library Chambers,
yes, sir.
where we were
6 o'clock.
at 6 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with that, I will adjourn the meeting tonight at 6:56 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.